Hi, I'm Mr. Wahlberg, and I'm glad you're here. Welcome, novices. This is novice year. Let's start off by explaining what a novice is. Speech and debate uses the term novice for a person in their first year of competition. Religious orders like monks and nuns also use the term novice for a person who just entered the community and is under probation. As novice debaters, you don't start out on probation, but you do have some limits on your play until the training wheels come off. You're supposed to ask the coaches questions. You're supposed to learn with your classmates and learn from the advanced debaters in the program. You're actually supposed to make mistakes too. Debaters who don't make mistakes never get a chance to learn. Some coaches describe novices like a baby learning to walk. You're entering a strange world where it seems like everyone can do things a whole lot better than you can. And they seem to know things that they won't tell you until they use it against you in the most crushing way possible. Remember that part about asking your team for questions? We want to give you the answer before some team from St. Thomas Aquinas embarrasses you in a debate round. Your first tournament may feel like a baby feels the first time the baby falls and hits a red-hot stove. You'll need to imagine a scenario where a baby could fall into a stove, but those details aren't important here. After that happens, you'll have the kind of knowledge that only experience can give. From there, you might find that walking is better than crawling, even if it means you'll probably stumble again. A mix of curriculum and competition. Policy debate is co-curricular, not extracurricular, so it has in-class and outside-of-class requirements, like choir and orchestra as a class, but requires concerts. Policy debate has a class and requires tournaments. We have units and tests and homework, but the real emphasis of this program is about getting you up and speaking. Just about every class will have some mix of reading, writing, and speaking. That mix of reading, writing, speaking is the backbone of debate. And there's some of the best life skills that you'll ever learn. The classwork matters, but mostly it matters because it'll affect your ability to perform in tournaments. We don't count wins and losses for a grade. You can lose every round, though I hope you don't, and still get 100% in class. And I hope you do. Arete and agape. The motto of our program is two Greek words, arete and agape. Arete is one of the words for virtue. It means being your best self. It refers to Ares, the Greek god of war and courage. Ares was a complicated figure. He was amazing in battle, courageous, strong, and valorous. And the ancients thought of his courage, his type of courage was the highest goal of man. Today, we might think of arete as swagger. You can only have swagger if you've trained to be the best and you can back it up. It's the first word of the motto in our speech and debate program. We want our debaters to train well, be confident, and live virtuously. The second word is agape. It's the Greek word for love. Ancient Greece had several words for love, saying that there's a difference between loving chicken wings and loving your spouse and loving your enemy. Agape is the kind of love that a parent has for his or her child, or the kind of love between a husband and a wife. It's sacrificial. It does not count the costs. It loves the other even when he or she is kind of hard to love. The second term of our motto, I think, is the most important. To be the best for St. James Academy speech and debate, you must do your best and bring that confidence into your work. But all of our work must be grounded in love for each other, even when it's hard to love others. Our goal is to glorify God through speech and debate. I think we're going to win a lot of rounds this year. I hope we win a lot of medals and a lot of trophies. Your coaching staff, they're very competitive people, and we love to win. But there's more to our program than winning. It's far more important to us that our team lives our lives in a way that God would want us to live. The first goal of St. James Academy speech and debate is to glorify God. What does that mean from us? It means that we will debate with high ethical standards for honesty and fair play. We use evidence justly, and we treat our opponents as beloved children of God. That's not always easy, and sometimes it won't be reciprocated, but it's up to us to be the merciful face of Jesus, turning our cheeks at any personal slight. Most people in speech and debate are actually pretty nice. Don't get too worried about it. Still, we want to remember our team's verse. Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer everyone. Be gracious and tasteful. But salt is not just a flavor. Salt can preserve, and salt can kill. Take care in how you use it. The St. James Academy Speech and Debate program is under the patronage of St. Columba of Iona. St. Columba was an Irish monk and an abbot in the early Middle Ages who defended his abbey's right to a copy of the Psalms when a jealous tribal chief claimed ownership of the text. That abbey would later be the authors of the Book of Kells, which is one of the oldest existing copies of the Bible on earth. Columba is the author of 2 surviving religious poems. Columba is the patron saint of bookmakers and poets, and is a person who cared deeply about words. He's a fitting patron for our team. Debate is a game. It has customs and a way you play it. Let's begin by defining some terms. A policy debate round has 2 people on each side. Those people are partners. Some schools call them colleagues. And those 2 people together are called a team. Your partner will change for each tournament in your novice year. Advanced debaters typically only have 1 partner or maybe 2 partners. All of the St. James Academy debaters together are part of our squad. Each tournament is made up of 4 or 5 rounds of competition. Some tournaments have out rounds, like quarterfinals or semifinals or finals to determine a winner, but those are not very common in the novice division. The topic for debate is called a resolution. One team will speak in favor of the resolution. They're called the affirmative team. One team will speak against the resolution. They're called the negative team. Of the 2 debaters on each side, the one that speaks first is called the first affirmative or the first negative. There is a second affirmative and a second negative. They take turns to speak. Speeches have time limits, and there's short periods called cross-examination, where one person asks another speaker some questions. Debate positions are kind of like basketball positions. There aren't actually rules that say what each position has to do, but it works best if the workload is divided up and each speaker does the duties of his or her position. We'll talk more about that in the future. Each side tries to convince a judge that their team is right to either uphold or deny the resolution. The judge is not usually a professional, especially during novice year. They're a member of the community who may or may not have debate experience. The judge is not your enemy. His or her ballot is a coveted prize that you should try to win. A judge will listen to the debate and make comments on a piece of paper called a ballot. The ballot will also say which team wins or loses. You probably won't see the ballot until the whole tournament is over, and you probably won't know your win and loss record until then either. The judge gives his or her ballot to a tab room who tabulates the scores during the tournament. At the end of the tournament, the best teams will either enter out rounds or get medals based on their total scores during the tournament. After the awards assembly, we can leave the tournament. Let's look at the resolution. In policy debate, there is one topic for the entire season. Other debate events, mostly in the spring semester in Kansas, may change their resolutions more often, but in policy, people become experts on that topic. Let's look at this season's resolution. If you read it carefully, you'll probably have a couple of reactions. 1, you couldn't care less about it. Actually, that's good news. In tournaments, you'll debate both sides of the resolution. In one round, you may be for it, and the next round, you'll be against it. From time to time, people have strong opinions about the resolution. If that's the case for you, you might find that it's fun to play devil's advocate for a side you don't agree with. 2, you may not know a single thing about the resolution. Don't be intimidated by this. When resolutions are complicated, they're complicated for everyone. And few high schoolers are experts on a resolution when the season begins. Pretty much everybody's starting out in the same place. Read that resolution again. Do you see how it says that the United States federal government should do something? That means we'll be debating about a particular action, a plan to meet the resolution. That's why this event is called Policy Debate. Debaters will propose and discuss a variety of particular type of public policy, cases and plans. I'm going to throw out a bunch of terminology here, and I hope you can figure out from context clues what each term means. Remember the two sides to a debate? Those two sides are called affirmative, not pro or positive, and negative, not con or anti. The affirmative will propose an idea that should satisfy the resolution. For novices, we generally make a few options for teams to choose from. Advanced debaters write their own speeches. There are two basic parts to this proposal, a case and a plan. The case part of the speech is where the affirmative explains why a change needs to be made and some of the good things they expect to happen as a result. The plan is the policy in particular. Some plans are super specific and they get into the nitty-gritty of the proposal, but usually it's just a few key details. High schoolers aren't actually policy wonks, and there's not much benefit into pretending that they are. Because the affirmative team is proposing a change in the way things are done, they have the burden of proof to show that there's a reason for the change, that this proposal is a workable idea that will result in the improvement. They need to do this in their first speech to have a prima facie case. This means that on first look, they explain that there's really a problem and that their proposal can actually solve the problem. Otherwise, the judge should just vote negative and keep doing what we're already doing, because we have the presumption that the status quo is going to work just fine. The negative will argue against that policy. They have a few paths for doing this. In general, neg arguments are either defensive or offensive. Defensive arguments try to explain why the AF's case is incorrect. Either the problem is overblown or misunderstood, or that the advantages that the AF hopes for won't actually happen. Offensive arguments explain that there are unintended consequences to the policy, that adopting the AF proposal would create some kind of disadvantage. Or the neg may propose a counterplan, a non-resolutional way to solve the problem. What's the difference between a defensive and offensive argument? A defensive argument explains why the opponent is wrong. An offensive argument explains how the proposal is a bad idea. That may sound like a subtle difference right now, but it's how policy is made in the real world, and those kind of discussions have a strong voice in policy debate. The speeches. Each person in the debate gets to give two speeches, lead one cross-examination and answer to one cross-examination. Their first speech, called a constructive, they will construct their arguments. In the second speech, called a rebuttal, they will answer or rebut what the other side has said. Each side has two people who can speak for a maximum of 13 minutes and question an opponent for a maximum of 3 minutes. These are maximums. You can speak for 2 seconds and then sit down if you like, but I doubt you would win very much. It may seem impossible to you that you could talk for 8 minutes at a stretch of time about a topic, but by November, you'll probably be wishing for twice as much time, especially in rebuttal. Have patience. It's not all supposed to make sense yet. We'll go over in this stuff in class together. Always remember, if you have questions, be sure to ask. You have 4 years to learn this. We all begin wherever we begin, and we proceed at the pace we set for ourselves. Be patient with yourself, but push yourself forward. Your coaches expect you to grow. We don't expect you to be grown. If by the time of the state tournament your senior year, you're still unsure about what to do in rebuttals, or you don't know how to be gracious with your speech, seasoned with salt, then we failed each other. But be willing to get there when you get there. Thanks. God bless you. Go Thunder.